Hello, my name is Philippe Cloutier, President and CEO of Cartier Resources. We explore for gold in the Quebec portion of the Abitibi Greenstone Belt, and our flagship is the Chimo Mine project. And we've just recently produced a consolidated mineral resource estimate for the project.
Like you said you would. Thanks for coming back on. That's what I wanted. That's what I'm checking in on, right? You said you would. You've done it. So consolidated resource. I mean, give us some of the numbers, please.
It now stands at 720,000 ounces of gold in the indicated category, and 1.633 million ounces of gold in the inferred category. And all of that is within a few hundred meters of the underground existing infrastructure of the Chimo Mine project.
Right. Okay. So was that sort of in and around where you thought you'd be? So you've got over a couple of million ounces, all categories.
It's a bit more. All right. That when we had the Chimo Mine project, we were, because of the infrastructure, the engineers doing the resource estimates and working on the PEA could afford to use certain parameters and cutoff grades because of the proximity of the infrastructure. The other issuer that had the West Nord deposit that's right immediately to the east of Chimo Mine could not afford that luxury. The engineer said, no, you can't use their cutoff grades and their parameters. You have to use much higher cutoff grades because standalone that deposit is not economic. But if you merge the two projects together, then that deposit is easily accessible via underground drifts. And when we did a consolidated resource estimate of both the North or West deposit and the Chimo Mine project, it ended up being about 100 or 150,000 extra ounces. So the beauty of that is, and one of the reasons we had to do that is under 43-101 rules, you cannot add resources from which were produced by two different issuers. Well, exactly, because
for us as investors, we're automatically thinking, hey, so what do the economics look like on that? Combining satellite assets doesn't really work economically, typically. But okay, so 2.3 million ounces, all categories. But you've also, and I'm trying to work out to what end here, you're also announced 25,000 meter drill program. So what are you trying to do with that?
Right. Obviously, the aim of that 25,000 meter drill program is to grow the resource base past the 3 million ounce mark. Now, when we did the resource estimate on the West Nord deposit, we had some very pleasant surprises. Namely, we had to resurvey all of our competitors' holes because now they were ours. And in the resurveying process, that grew a bit of the ounces, and it repositions some of the holes that weren't rightly positioned, because believe it or not, some of these previous issuers had not surveyed their diamond drill holes. The impact that had on the 25,000 meters that we've recently planned has actually cut some of the holes that we were going to do in the upper portion of the deposit. And now we've moved them down to the lower portion where we can grow even more the resource. I'd like to add that the drilling that we're doing is essentially aimed at growing the ounces. So we're not doing any infill drilling. Right now, we're still doing some very inexpensive type exploration. When the PEA comes out, the recommendations chapter in the PEA will no doubt say, look, guys, the next step is the feasibility. We have to flip the inferred into the indicated and measured. Therefore, you're going to have to do a lot of infill drilling, et cetera, et cetera. We feel and we know that in 2023, we're going to go or graduate towards more expensive type of exploration. But by then, hey, if we've mapped out roughly 3 million ounces, we're definitely going to be on the radar.
Talk to me about this, because I think your business plan, your business model is really, really important for people to understand. Like, it's 30 million market cap company, right? You've been hit like everyone else in the past. Yep. So 8-9 months. So I'm not going to dig you out about that, but I need to understand what we're walking into here. You're talking about coming out the other side of this drill program with potentially 3 million ounces, all categories. You'll have some kind of, well, obviously 720 of that is already indicated, so presumably it'd be a little bit more to it. You've got historic data. These aren't just random targets the drill program is going for or modeling. You've got some historic data that you're working with. So 3 million ounces is quite attractive to, I suspect, Agnico Eagle, a big shareholder of yours. I suspect it, O3 Mining, who you did the deal with recently, will want to benefit from that somehow. What is the play for you here? What do you need to look like by the time you deliver this PEA? Because PEAs are kind of plus or minus 30% on the economics. So what are you trying to show and who to?
What we're trying to show is that this thing is clearly on a path to production process. So the PEA is just one of those necessary evils that we're going to have to come out with. And then we're going to go on towards the pre-feasibility and feasibility.
Why do you say that? That's really fascinating. Sorry to interrupt you. I'll let you come back to it. But it's one of those necessary evils. Agnico Eagle don't need a PEA.
No.
They just need the data, right? So it's a question of, so why are you doing the PEA at all? You've got to talk to the market and I guess let them know what's going on and maybe drive up the price. So if a Agnico Eagle or another comes along, you get a bit more value. Is that the only reason?
No, it's a roadmap for other competitors as well. Listen, there are 5 mining companies with 6 mills along the highway. There's Agnico with the Gold X and the Canadian Malartic mill, and they're also building the Odyssey underground in partnership with Yamana. There's Wesdome, there's Eldorado, there's Monarch. I mean, so there's a lot of mills to feed, and the PEA will also consider building it ourselves, right? They'll have 2 options: build a mill on site or toll mill it. So the PEA is actually a roadmap to make better decisions moving forward. Obviously, since this project has a lot of historical data, a lot of diamond drilling, and it was past producer, the bonus here is then when we get to designing the infill drilling program, we'll know where to put that infill drilling to generate more or higher value ounces in the near term. And PEA documents and pre-feasibility documents can map out the first 10 years or the value of the first 10 years of mining, and they cannot project beyond 10 years. So you're looking to create the highest value sub-shovel ready project that could be mined yourself or sold to any number of people. Obviously, Cisco and Agnico have a foot in the door, but that's why I say it's a necessary evil. When you start a drill program, one of the necessary evils is to produce a drill result. When you have a whole bunch of drill results, one of the necessary evils is to produce a 43-101 resource estimate and onwards. You always have to keep adding value to your project and being relevant in this space, more so now after this crisis and this inflationary headwind.
We'll talk about that. We'll definitely talk about that, certainly in the context of small mines. But just coming back to again the picture you're trying to paint to make yourself attractive. Because when we first started talking, this was a cookie cutter approach. We're going to advance Chimo, flip that. We're going to then get into East Cadillac, Nordo West, etc.
Yep.
You know what you're doing. We've always said there's a good team who do things the right way and have some nice assets in here. But you're right. There is a kind of new paradigm which I want to talk about in a second. But your assets are going to be more valuable to some than others, because trucking costs, etc. do have an impact, especially in this environment, for those hungry mills that have got to be fed. So coming back to this 3 million ounce thing, it's really important that you show how this thing gets mined, not just I've got ounces, but how this thing can be mined. Whether you
the optionality,
right? So again, do you do any work on that, or do you leave that to others to work out?
No, we are going to be doing work on that, because essentially senior miners maybe 10 or 15 years ago were very focused on ounces, and they took on the risk. Today, they're not only focused on ounces, but they're focused on companies that could deliver projects that have been extremely de-risked. So the process is always to de-risk. And listen to what we were saying, when you're sailing from point A to point B, it's never a straight line. You have to adjust your sails to the wind, to the direction of the wind. And Lord knows in this industry in the last decade, there's been different headwinds and side winds and so on and so forth. That's what we're going through. And very fortunately, we are in a mining environment, Val-d'Or mining camp, with infrastructure, manpower, tremendous political support, tremendous hydroelectric situation. So, and we were discussing earlier on the application of ESG in our jurisdiction the process is an encouragement mode and not a punitive mode. So projects keep getting better and better as they're advanced by seniors and juniors alike.
No, I agree with that, and like I said, I keep saying I will give you a chance to talk about that one, because I think it's again part of the new paradigm. Cost of mining is going through the roof, and we've seen lots of capex has been blowing their brains out. Quite frankly, it's a different environment. So let's talk about how you set yourself up for success. But we'll like I say we'll deal with that bit in a second. But look, I'm looking at your project and going, well, do you know what? Okay, they're kind of done this consolidated resource now, which is great. Okay, they're looking at their portfolio slightly differently because outsiders are looking at it slightly differently. But ultimately, it's still the grades are kind of like meh, So how do you overcome that?
Well, we published that last year. We were actually tipped off to considering ore sorting technology to address the lower grades that we're seeing at Chimo. Obviously, Chimo has very high grades, but when you bulk mine it, you maximize or optimize ounces. We did a test at Steiner in Kentucky. We did a test at a metallurgical lab in southern Quebec. Both tests are positive. You could actually reduce by 50% the volume of rock that you're sending to the mill, and also pre-concentrate it by 170. So what will be coming out of that shaft eventually is 5 to 6 gram ton material of gold. And so and listen, there's Goldex, there's Odyssey, there's Young Davidson right along the highway. They're lowish grade, high volume, bulk underground mining. So that's not one of my concerns, but I could answer to that, and people could visit our website and they'll see the technical details of the positive ore sorting tests that we delivered.
See, that's really interesting. That's really interesting, because I think most retail will be looking at this thing and going, grade's not so sexy. We need something higher. It's going to be expensive, and I don't think it's therefore going to be that attractive. But what you're saying is, with the savings that you've just talked about, it is attractive to a mid-tier, because they feel they can the economics stack up, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about some of the other things that they will find attractive. You started mentioning some of them, like energy costs, very, very topical at the moment. Hydro energy in Quebec, cheap, right? Well, not cheap. So it's not as expensive as people are struggling with elsewhere in Canada and elsewhere in the world, for sure. What else is there on the list that makes it attractive?
What makes it attractive is this entire area has mill capacity, qualified workforce, proactive fiscal and policy environment. The First Nations are all on board because it generates really a diverse type of workforce and work environments for them. Listen, it is a great place to be. The Abitibi, I'll just remind you a few statistics. 100 years of mining, over 100 mines, 200 million ounces of gold produced, 400 million ounces of silver, 35 billion pounds of zinc, 15 billion pounds of copper. Do I need to say more? This is mining country. And we don't want a black eye. So we're also addressing being good corporate citizens. That's what we have run. We're a tier 1 jurisdiction. And companies like Agnico or Yamana or El Dorado or Hecla, they want to have positions in mining camps with multi-mines over multi-decades. That's the way they could play their math game, their economics.
True, but it's like I keep saying, there's a phrase, there's new mining paradigm, which is costs are going through the roof. Marginal projects are unlikely to get funded, and if they do, they're unlikely to make money. We've talked to a few in the last, I better say last 2 weeks, so we don't narrow it down too much, where they're suffering in an environment where the staffing costs are gone up, contractor costs are gone up, fuel, chemicals, dynamite, you name it, across the board. Inflation through the roof here.
Absolutely.
And one of them has added $400 an ounce to their cost structure. $400 an ounce. That's painful, right? That's Western Australia.
Absolutely.
And even Barrick, $100 in the last quarter.
Yeah. So in an environment such as Val-d'Or, economies of scale become very important, and that's one of our advantages. But if the costs keep going up, you're quite right that the entire industry is going to have to think this through. I've seen mine grades go, progressively lower and lower as we advance in time. And that's just a function of the fact that you've got 25 years plus mining and metallurgical technology that you did not have 25 years ago. So that's why most of the, mine developments that you're seeing today are Renaissance projects that were shelved and abandoned, or, where production ceased over 2 decades ago. They're now being looked at differently. And if when the mine planning and mine scheduling and the guidances are set, these things can become very economic.
But how do you, as a small company, right? Because there are many small companies pretty much saying the same stuff, pretty much in the same position. How do you stand out? What do you need to do? Because we've kind of got this ENG imperative. Like, I think in Canada, they encourage it. In South America, they positively demand it. So the companies, small companies, need to start thinking and behaving differently to take advantage of potential incentives or potential, whether it be tax incentives or otherwise. So what have you got lined up that you think is going to be the way forward?
What you need to do is be at the forefront. You have to listen to the markets, listen to the government policies being put, listen to the senior producers. They're telegraphing exactly what they need. And heavens know they need them, right? So if you're any serious junior, you're listening. You're listening, you're reading what's, black on white, what needs to be done, and you're building that into your project, and you're making sure your project ticks the right boxes. So by listening, by having your radar, really buzzed up, you're able to keep being relevant and to continue advancing your project. And even in the worst of times, obviously, if you've got money in the bank, such as Cartier, you can continue advancing the project. The last thing you want to do is to stall the work and to lick your wounds and to wait till the market turns, because then you're actually, catching up, running to catch up to service the needs of the industry.
Okay.
I hope I've answered your question.
No, you have. No, I know you've thought about it, but it ain't easy. It definitely ain't easy. I'm not sure anyone's got 100% of the answer, because it's very fluid times.
Absolutely.
Jurisdictional risk is hot and heavy on everyone's minds at the risk. And I always say Quebec is a great province in which to do business, very supportive of mining, history or no. They're here and there today, they are supportive.
We're all in this together, and trust me, the companies like Agnico, the Osisko Group, the Eldorados, the Yamanas, we all share ideas and our fears about where this is going, and the best juniors are the ones that will apply what's being told to them, and we've done that, and I've expressed that. So far, we've been able to manage it quite well. It has taken more time. We've adjusted ourselves every time. The next phase of exploration at Chimo, maybe in 2023, that's going to be a bit more expensive. If the markets don't turn, I'm going to start to get worried.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the precious metal market. I know most people are trying to look at JP Morgan insider traders and anything they can lay blame on. But the truth is, it's risk off at this moment, and until the markets settle down
I'm
globally.
An optimist.
Yeah,
I'm an optimist, and I focus on what I could control, not the rest.
Right. So let's finish on a bang, which is right. 25,000 meter program announced, fantastic. More and obviously increased resource, fantastic. But PEA is the moment where the potentially a step change, when people understand the extent of what you've got here. So what's the timing on that?
Actually, we have a progress meeting in the next 2 weeks, We believe that it's going to be before Christmas, but I don't want to make any promises. I mean, normally we should have this before Christmas. That's my answer. That's my best answer.
Okay, well, let's leave it there. Maybe you come back when it's done, and
for sure.
And tell us.
And
I told you
drilling.
so.
There's drill results. There's drill results.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
what the market could send us, and then there's the PEA. So we've got wiggle room.
Tell me about this. Sorry, last question, I promise. I always do this.
Yeah.
Last question, I promise. Which is, we've seen different ways of approaching announcing drill results. We've seen companies put them out as soon as they got them. You know, that we've got one whole discovery type conversations going on in some place, and then we've got others who have done tens, if not hundreds of thousands of meters, just batching them up and going to release them in one big lump sum at the end. How are you going to play this, given where you are?
At this stage of the game, I'm thinking just release them as they come in. So because our program has got the traditional drillers plus directional drilling, as soon as we're sampled, it goes to the lab. We don't wait to send all the batches. So this time around, I'm going to release them as they come in. And I think I could afford to do that because by now, after 4 years of drilling, people know the long section. We'll place the results. We'll say, this is what we've just announced. This is where the next announcement is going to be. And that's how I believe I'm going to play it at this stage. I'm not going to batch them at a later date. Okay.
Well, look, and what have you got? You two drills turning?
2 drills turning. One on the West Nordo deposit, one on the East Chimo Mine area. And as soon as Christmas or the freeze comes in, we're going to take one of those rigs and send it right west of the shaft because it's a swampy area and we need to address the logistics and make sure we're on board with the environmental consigns by the government.
No floating drills. Right, good.
No,
glad to hear.
You don't want that.
No one wants that. Okay, well, brilliant. Stay in touch. Look forward to hearing the announcements as they come out. Appreciate your time today, Philip.
Thank you very much, Matt.